See, the playbook for posting online and social media has changed. And if you are a brand, advising one, or even just building your own presence on social media, this is crucial because most brands are playing with an old playbook at this point. I mean, the algorithm has shifted, the audiences have evolved, and the brands that are really winning are the brands that are now playing a completely different game. See, this isn't theory. This is a refined framework that comes from working with brands, breaking down what actually drives growth and watching what separates the ones who blow up from the ones who get ignored. And it really comes down to 3 levels. The core presence, what every brand needs just to be taken seriously. The acceleration layer, the stuff that takes you from stagnant to scaling. And the frontier moves, the moves that the smartest, most forward-thinking brands are pulling off right now while everyone else is still catching up. So by the time we're done here, you will have a clearer map of the social landscape, the 99% of marketers, creators, and brand managers out there. So let's lock in, because this is going to change the way that you think about social media. Let's start with the beginning, stage 1. Stage 1 is core presence. Every brand wants to jump straight to the flashy stuff, right? They want the viral videos, the influencer partnerships, the campaigns that get written up in ad week. But here's the truth. If your core presence isn't dialed in, none of that other stuff matters. Think about it like building a house. You can put all the effort you want into the interior design, but if the foundation is shaky, the whole thing eventually collapses. That's how social works too. So the first step within the core presence is deciding where you actually belong. Too many brands try to be everywhere at once. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, X, Pinterest, spreading themselves so thin that none of it really works. Right now, for most brands, the reality is that there are 2 platforms that matter more than any of the others for brand discovery. And that is Instagram and TikTok. Why? Well, because they're still the only places where the algorithm gives you a free shot. You can post a video with 0 followers and get in front of hundreds, thousands, and sometimes even millions of people. That kind of distribution power simply just doesn't exist on most of the other platforms. That doesn't mean you should ignore the rest. LinkedIn is absolutely powerful for B2B. YouTube is unmatched for long-form storytelling. X can be really useful for real-time culture, but none of these really matter if you haven't built a consistent presence on TikTok and Instagram first. And here's the key. You cannot treat them the same. Instagram is more polished, aspirational, curated. TikTok is really raw, like really raw, scrappy, personality driven. If you try and copy paste the same content across both, generally you are gonna fail. The audience knows the difference. So step 1 of your core presence is choosing platforms deliberately and respecting the culture of each. Okay, next 2, building a distinct voice. Once you've chosen where you want to show up, the next piece is figuring out how you'll actually sound. Most brands sound the same online. Generic captions, buzzword-heavy copy, a brand voice that could belong to literally any company in their industry. And the result is predictable. People just scroll right past. See, right now, the brands that win are the ones with a distinct, recognizable voice. Think of how Wendy's uses humor to stand out on Twitter, or how Duolingo leans into chaos on TikTok, or Liquid Death. They use dark, edgy storytelling to sell something that's as boring as canned water. They don't sound like brands, they sound like personalities. And that is the unlock. Your brand voice doesn't need to be professional, but it needs to be memorable. This doesn't mean you should force humor, especially if it doesn't fit your brand. What it does actually mean is that you should ask, what's the one word I want people to associate with our brand every time that we show up online? It could be confident, it could be helpful, playful, bold, but pick a lane and own it. Because without a voice, you're just posting. With a voice, you're telling a story. Number 3 is consistency being the real currency. Here's where most brands fail. They start strong, posting daily or weekly. Then after a month, the calendar gets messy, someone drops the ball, and suddenly they're posting whenever they have time. And that's the death of momentum. The algorithms don't reward random posting. The audience doesn't build habits around inconsistency. If people can't expect you to show up, they won't expect you at all. So, a core part of your presence is setting a realistic cadence and actually sticking to it. This doesn't mean you need to post 3 times a day. It means that you need to pick a schedule that your team can actually sustain. Maybe it's twice a week. Great. Daily short form with weekly long form. Perfect. Just make it consistent, because in 2025, consistency is honestly more valuable than virality. Number 4, human faces are just more powerful than logos. Here's another non-negotiable. People connect with people, not brands. If your social presence is just a logo posting graphics, you're invisible. The fastest way to build trust and attention is to put real human faces into your content. That could be your founder, could be your employees, your customers, or even recurring creators who represent your brand. But if you're faceless, you are going to be forgettable. Look at Gymshark. Their growth didn't just come from polished content, it came from athletes and creators who embodied the brand. Or Notion, which exploded online because creators were constantly making content about how they actually used it. Your logo is a symbol, but your people are the story. Number 5, the table stakes checklist. Let's summarize the essentials of core presence. Be on TikTok and Instagram first, but treat them differently. Build a voice that's distinct, not generic. Commit to a cadence that you can actually sustain. Put faces into your brand, and stop chasing viral, start chasing consistency. If you have those 5 things dialed in, well, you've built a real foundation. You've created something durable, and now ultimately you'll be ready for stage 2, the acceleration layer, where we shift from just being present to actually growing with speed and momentum. So once you've built your foundation, the accounts, the voice, the consistency, the faces, now comes the part that everyone actually cares about, is the growth, right? This is where brands stop being background noise and start becoming signals that people actually notice. It's the difference between being just another account and becoming a brand that people can't escape online. And in 2025, there are 4 accelerators that matter the most: faces, relationships, distribution, and scale. So number 1, creators as the engine. Let's start with the obvious. In 2025, creators are the media. The fastest growing brands aren't just working with creators, they're being built through creators. Think about how skincare brands like Topicals or Hero Cosmetics have exploded. Yes, they have good products, but what really pushed them into cultural conversation was creators constantly talking about them in ways that felt authentic. Tutorials, skits, get ready with me's, even memes. Now, compare that to the old model, where a brand would drop a product shot, write hydration reimagined, and expect people to just care. That era is dead. It's long past. The playbook now is clear. Find creators who actually use or resonate with your product. Make them recurring characters in your content, and let their voice, humor, and perspective carry the brand forward. Notice I said recurring, not one-offs, not we paid an influencer for a single post one time. That doesn't move the needle anymore. Audiences are smart, right? They can smell a transactional post a mile away. So what works is long-term presence. When a creator becomes part of your ecosystem, when they show up again and again, their audience starts to associate them with you. And that is why we remember brands. Remember, what works is long-term presence. When a creator becomes part of your ecosystem, when they show up again and again, then their audience starts to associate them with you. Why we remember brands that work with creators consistently. It's why Gymshark turned athletes into faces of their brand, not just temporary billboards. If your brand still hasn't put real people into its content, you are invisible. Okay, next up is the founders and employees as characters. EGC is something that we're coining a lot more now, employee-generated content. See, the next layer of acceleration is what we call brand characters. These are the people inside your company, founders, employees, sometimes even customers, who step into the spotlight and become part of the story. Again, with Gymshark, think about Ben Francis, the founder, who still shows up in videos talking about how the company is run. Or Whitney Hurd, Bumble, right? She's done interviews, podcasts, TikToks that build credibility for the brand. You don't even need to be a celebrity CEO to pull this off. Even small touches matter. A founder giving quick updates on TikTok, or an employee jumping into trends with behind the scenes content. A customer service rep answering FAQs in a funny way, in real time, on camera. What this does is humanize the brand. It makes the faceless company into something that actually has personality. And here's the key, it doesn't have to be polished. In fact, the more raw it is, often the better it actually performs. A 30-second iPhone clip of a founder explaining why they made the product will often outperform a 3-minute overproduced ad pretty much every time. Because what people want on social isn't production, it's more proximity. Next up, number 3, product seeding at scale. So let's talk distribution. In the old days, influencer marketing meant sending a handful of products to big accounts and praying that they would post. Today, the smart brands are running seeding operations at scale. And here's how it works. Instead of targeting 10 big names, you send out 500, 1,000, even 3,000 packages every month to micro creators. Most of them won't post, and that's okay, but some will. And when they do, the ripple effect starts to add up really, really fast. Micro creators are generally hungrier. Their audiences often trust them more, and the algorithm doesn't care how many followers someone has anymore. If the content is good, it spreads. So the question isn't how do I land one mega influencer, it's how do I flood the market with 1,000 micro voices talking about my brand every week. Think of it like planting seeds. Some die, sure. Some grow into small plants, and a few turn into giant trees. The only way to guarantee the trees is to plant more seeds. If your brand isn't seeding aggressively, you're missing the most unfair distribution play in 2025. Number 4 is the multi-account ecosystem. Here's the last accelerator, and it's one most brands are still blind to. One account, in our experience, isn't necessarily enough anymore. If your whole social strategy lives on a single profile, you're leaving reach on the table. The best brands are now running multi-account ecosystems. And here's what that looks like. Regional accounts, these localized content for different countries, languages, or cultures. Style-specific accounts that show off different product categories or target different audiences. Think of a fashion brand running several pages for men's, women's accessories, right? Personality-driven accounts, where employees, founders, or content creators run their own spin-off profiles under the umbrella brand. Now, the reason that this can work is simple. The internet rewards specificity. People want to follow accounts that feel like they're tailored to them. And when you multiply your accounts, you multiply your surface area for growth. Look at how Red Bull runs everything from extreme sports accounts to niche music sub-brands, or how fashion labels run secondary accounts just for campaigns or archives. You don't need to start with 10. Heck, start with 2. Your main account and a spin-off. Test it. See if it pulls in a different audience. If it works, expand. This is how you scale reach without relying solely on paid ads. Okay, so the growth layer in summary. To recap, the acceleration layer is about 4 key moves. Number 1 was turning creators into recurring characters, not one-off ads. Number 2, put founders and employees into the spotlight. Number 3, run product seeding like a distribution machine. And number 4, multiply accounts to expand your reach. When you combine these, something powerful happens. Your brand stops being just a page that people scroll past, and it starts becoming a presence. You start showing up everywhere. Different faces, different voices, different accounts, but all tied back into the same brand story. Okay, stage 3. The frontier moves. If stage 1 was the foundation, stage 2 was the acceleration layer, then stage 3 is the frontier. This is where the brands who are really playing the game differently live. The ones who aren't just keeping up, but setting the pace for everyone else. And here's the thing about the frontier. It always looks weird at first. Most people dismiss it. They say that's too much or that won't work for us, until suddenly the brands who leaned in early start really winning and everyone else scrambles to catch up. So what exactly are the frontier moves in 2025? Let's break down the 5 that really matter the most. Number 1, from posts to programming, episodic content, right? Posting random content every day isn't enough anymore. The most forward-thinking brands start to think like TV networks. Instead of just posting whatever's trending, they're launching recurring shows and formats, weekly episodes, serialized storytelling, characters, arcs, and themes that people actually want to come back for. Let's go back to Liquid Death. They don't just post ads for water. They create full-on entertainment, skits, mock commercials, and recurring absurd characters. People don't just drink the product anymore, they tune into the show. Or look at brands that are leaning into mini-series on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, like Brooklyn Coffee Shop running the Latte Art Friday, or a SaaS brand doing weekly founder diaries. These aren't one-offs. They're designed as programs that the audiences can actually follow. The reason this works is simple. Attention now belongs to formats that people can anticipate. It's not just content, it's programming. Number 2, clipping and content multiplication. One of the biggest unlocks on social right now is what we call the clipping ecosystem. See, the problem is most brands make one video and post it once. Then it dies. That's like recording a hit song and playing it live just one time. Smart brands are taking every piece of long-form content and breaking it into dozens of short-form moments. Interviews become reels, podcasts become TikTok clips, behind-the-scenes shoots become mini trailers. But it goes further than that. Some brands are now building distribution clipping networks. They're giving access to their entire content library and then letting outside creators, affiliates, or just fans clip it up and repost it. Sometimes with financial incentives, but sometimes it's just for free. But the effect of this, suddenly your brand feels like it's everywhere. People scroll TikTok and see 5 different variations of your message from different accounts, each hitting slightly different audiences. This was once the playbook for personalities, but it's now shifting into brands. And brands who own and build clipping ecosystems are going to own disproportionate share of attention. Number 3, we mentioned it earlier, is the employee-generated content, EGC. Here's a reality that most brands don't want to admit. Your employees are your most underused media asset. Gen Z and Gen Alpha are flooding into the workforce and they're native content creators. For them, pulling out a phone and making a video isn't work, it's literally second nature. Smart brands are harnessing that by encouraging employees to create content that's part of their role. Sometimes it's behind the scenes TikToks, sometimes it's trend participation, sometimes it's just showing up as themselves. So why does this matter? Well, because audiences trust employees more than polished brand accounts. An intern giving a raw tour of the office will always outperform some glossy ad. Look at companies like Duolingo. Their social presence is powered by employees, running with trends, making the brand's mascot go viral, and creating a voice that feels alive. The future of brand content isn't just top down, it's actually bottom up. And EGC is how you scale authenticity without burning out your marketing team. Number 4 is affiliate engines and creator communities. One of the most explosive frontier plays right now is building an affiliate-driven creator army. Here's how it works. Instead of only running ads, brands are opening up affiliate programs that incentivize creators, big and small, to post about their product in exchange for commission on sales. The smartest brands aren't waiting for affiliates to find them, they're recruiting actively, training creators on how to make effective videos, and even giving them pre-made assets or scripts. Think about the leverage here. Hundreds of creators all pumping out content about your brand every single week. Not because you paid for a one-off collab, but because they're financially tied to your success. This is where commerce and content merge. And if you've seen TikTok Shop explode over the past year, you know just how powerful this can get. Affiliate engines turn your brand into a movement. And once it hits scale, it's nearly impossible for competitors to keep up. Number 5, playing in niche social channels. Finally, the frontier brands are experimenting in the overlooked corners of the internet. Most companies obsess over TikTok and Instagram, but smart ones are then doubling down on YouTube. But the frontier brands, well, they're already asking what's next. That might mean Snapchat for Gen Alpha. It might mean Substack for deep community connection. It might even mean Discord servers where fans can interact directly. The point isn't to chase every new platform, it's to understand that attention always fragments. And the brands who learn to play in niche spaces often get outsized influence later. Remember, when TikTok was just for dancing kids, the brands who laughed at it then are now paying millions in ads just to catch up. Don't make that mistake twice. So stage 3 has been about where social stops being a marketing channel and becomes a media ecosystem. Instead of asking, what should we post this week, you start asking, what shows are we running? Who's clipping the content? How are our employees part of the story? How many creators are in our affiliate engine? Which niche platforms are we experimenting on? That's the new playbook. That's what separates the brands who survive from the brands who dominate. Because in 2025, the most valuable thing a brand can own isn't just attention, it's culture. And culture is built by those who dare to play at the frontier. We started with the foundation, the basics. You can't skip these anymore. The platforms that matter, the presence you need, and the consistency that sets the stage, because without that, nothing else really matters. But then we moved into growth strategies, the layers that actually create scale, creator partnerships, multi-account strategies, affiliate engines, and big seeding plays, the stuff that turns social from posting into a true growth channel. And finally, we pushed into the frontier, where the weird ideas live. Episodic content, employee-generated storytelling, distributed clipping networks, creator armies, niche platforms, all the things that sound extra today, but will be table stakes tomorrow. Because here's the bottom line. The old brand playbook, polished ads, sterile feeds, chasing likes, it's dead. It's the old age. The new playbook is messy. It's experimental. It's built on humans, not logos, on shows, not one-off posts, and ecosystems, not individual campaigns. And if you get this, you're already 99% ahead of brands, because most of them are still stuck trying to recycle content that doesn't resonate, while a small handful are quietly building cultural machines that will own the next decade. The question now is, how fast can we adapt? Because the gap between brands who get this and brands who don't is widening. Every week, every post, every platform shift. And here's the good news. This isn't about having the biggest budget or the fanciest production. It's about clarity, taste, execution. The brands who lean into this playbook now will capture an unfair advantage of attention while everyone else is still arguing about hashtags or some bullshit from the past. So as you go back to your team, ask yourself, are we posting content or are we programming shows? Are we running ads or are we building ecosystems? Are we chasing the past or are we building the future? Because the brands that win in 2025 and 2026 onwards won't be the loudest, they'll be the smartest. They'll be the sharpest and the most human. And if you play this right, you won't just win on social, you'll define it. See you on the next one.